Okay, this is Fusebox number 173, Scampaigning, and you might just have to be fully redacted.
Possibly. You know, we're running a special on falsified documents and bald-faced lies. Maybe you'd be interested in our yearly subscription rate. All the disinformation and scams you can carry for one low annual fee. Free 2-day shipping. Free box of whataboutisms. No? No matter. There are about 7 million folks right behind you that think that this is definitely the way to go. Hello, friends, and welcome in to Fusebox number 173, cunningly entitled Scampaigning. And I'm your bumper sticker in search of a message host, Mark Rose. And over there, in his fully neural drive-enabled voting booth, the grand poobah of the peak limiter, Milt Keynes, everybody.
Well, thank you kindly. Well, we got a full plate of scammers on this one, yeah?
Do we ever, Mr. Keynes, do we ever? Because, as we know, in our present-day scampaigning-like society, 1 + 1 clearly equals mud shark. And we have a number of things in this edition of the show to vividly illustrate this phenomena.
A cornucopia of crackpots.
A battalion of ballyhoo.
A flotilla of fakers.
A scamtastic sampling of some of the latest shenanigans in our world, often trying to pass as facts and truth. But alas, it's just a poot bag full of disinformation. That's right. We also have an edition of Spotlight on Film, which, gotta say, features a relatively new release to Blu-ray and other streaming platforms out there. A film that is nearly 90 years old and in color. Yeah, coming up.
Is that like one of those films they hand-colored the individual frames of film?
Well, no, but you are correct, though, Mr. Keynes. There were some experiments back in the silent era with tinting film segments. The Phantom of the Opera comes to mind, but this one, at the time, was considered quite revolutionary and, believe me, doesn't look like anything you may have seen. So, yeah, that is on the way. But first, a segment that's quite appropriate for our program today. Another thrilling installment of...
Lying liars that lie.
Oh, folks, I have wanted to talk about this scamtabulous act of optical undercoating malarkey for a long time. So, friends, have you had the eyeglass experience of late? You know, you have your eyes examined and then you're confronted with myriad choices for frames and styles and colors and lenses and all, by the way, very likely all, manufactured by only one eyewear manufacturer.
Well, it's kind of like cigarettes, you know? There were all but maybe 2 brands, really.
Exactly. Which makes the pricing structure on some of these frames absolutely obscene. Don't believe me? Go to your local eyewear gouger, optical store, and see the $650 sunglasses. Before lenses. Yeah, that's a whole nother set of scams. No, dear friends, we're chatting about what could only be described as the answer to the smarmy auto dealer vehicle undercoating scam of the optical industry. You remember that BS story, right? The smarmy auto dealer guy would try to get an extra $1,000 or more for some mysterious undercoating that they would spray on the car to protect either the undercarriage or the exterior paint itself. Never mind the fact that the auto manufacturer had already done this at no additional charge to the buyer, but it was a scam to get more cash from the unsuspecting buyer. Look, kind of like this.
Yeah, now, this right here, this is the undercoating overspray charge.
$4,500.
Yeah, and that's actually my cost there, buddy. I pass that savings along to you. So actually, it's about, usually I'd say about $7,800.
What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the blue light blocker lens scam. The most recent attempt to separate you from your money is in the form of these miraculous lenses that feature this extra special, read that, more expensive option that coats the lenses with this truly alien technology only available from us and everybody else, since we're all owned by the same company, that prohibits the highly dangerous blue light emitted from monitors and the like from reaching your eyes and burning them completely out of your head. Yeah, I want to credit a resource here, too. The quotes lifted for our little segment are from an undercover report conducted by the CBC, the Canadian Broadcast Corporation, on this newest marketing scam. And because, when in doubt, scare you.
It causes the retinal damage.
It damages your eyes, obviously.
Like macular degeneration, like when it's damage to your retinas, things like that.
It causes skin cancer, cataract, macular degeneration, and other eye conditions.
Yeah, just about everything in there, friends, just from staring at your monitor.
Yeah, but what about the giant mantis aliens just plucking them out of your head for sport?
Well, that's next year, Mr. Keynes. Giant mantis alien pluck-free lenses, right? So what does a board-certified ophthalmologist and eye surgeon say? Well, here is Dr. Saneer Gar.
Yeah, no. Those are the two most scary things you can talk about. You can talk about cancer and blindness, and you're now telling me that these glasses will protect against both? Where do I sign? But that's just not where the scientific data is.
As a matter of fact, he says in many cases, the fatigue that many feel isn't from the blue light at all.
No, it's not. And I don't know where that's come from and why it's taken off so much, because it's not data-driven. I can't fault them because I'm sure they're getting a little info sheet that says, you know what? Here's 3 talking points about blue light blocking lenses. I think people are thinking, well, geez, you're right. After I use my computer for a bunch of hours, my eyes don't feel very good. I can't see really well. They're kind of irritated. But what's bothering them isn't the blue light. It's the fact that when they're staring at their screen a lot, they're not blinking as often. That causes the eye to dry out. And when your eyes become dry, they become irritated and scratchy and tired.
Yes, but the needles of danger.
It has a very sharp rays. It's penetrating at the back of the eyes. Any single gadget, if you use your phone, iPad, iPhone, whatever you have around you, it has that specialty rays because it has a sharp light. Those sharpness, you have to block it in somehow.
Well, geez, I have these light rays that are little daggers that are coming into my eyes and poking holes in my macula, which is sort of what she's making it sound like. It does sound scary. And if I'm trying to sell you something that you don't need, making it sound scary helps the sell.
Well, here you go. Volvo used that fear ploy to sell their damn cars. Hey, just look at this crash test dummy footage.
Well, when all else fails, we'll just try to scare the crap out of you into buying our stuff. This blue light thing is actually real, friends, and it is all around us every day. Professor John O'Hagan, a chap at Oxford University, what he does is he studies and measures radiation emissions from all sorts of devices for a living, actually. And he can tell you.
Blue light in our normal environment is not dangerous at all. The main source of blue light for most people will be from the sky.
From the sky?
Yeah, from the sky. it's typically referred to as daylight.
Well, that clearly explains the tens of millions of folks in hospital beds right now suffering in agony from daylight exposure.
Only if they're vampires. But surely, Professor, there must be overwhelming evidence to support the staggering numbers of blue light syndrome sufferers around the globe.
There is no evidence that the blue light from your mobile device is harmful.
What? Well, Dr. Gar, there must have been countless studies confirming this horrible threat. I mean, what about the...
There are no studies that are showing that. Nothing in people. And so people will quote that, yes, blue light can hurt retinal cells, but they're not telling you that that's not been shown in a person or any group of people who are using their screens. It's mostly in a petri dish or taking a poor mouse and holding its head in a position and shining a blue light way intensely into their, mouse eyeballs for hours on end. That can also potentially be harmful. But that's, again, not how it happens in people.
Well, Professor Hagen, maybe you didn't test enough of the device.
As part of our study, we looked at a whole range of different phones, tablets, screens. We didn't find anything that gave us cause for concern.
Nothing. That's right. Now, if it makes you feel better to spend an extra $20 to $150 or more, depending on what optical rip-off joint you frequent, then, by all means, blue block yourself crazy. But just remember...
I don't have patients coming in ever with any signs of damage to their retinas from looking at their screen all day.
Time-scented. I like that.
The show for everybody, but not everybody will like it.
TheFuseboxShow.com. Unbelievable. Anyway, by the way, speaking of weasels in trench coats, here's another tasty morsel of scamacious behavior. This time, publicly exposed to the sneaky and underhanded manner in which it was carried out.
Hey, is there something knocking around in there, bro?
Wait a minute. It sounds like it's the door here. Wait. Oh, hey, Milo. What's the,
What's with the thing on the with the weasels?
The weasel thing? Oh, no. I didn't mean to say that there was anything wrong with... Well, sorry, buddy. I really had no idea that you were that sensitive to it. Yeah, I did know you were related to the Mustelidae, but... Well, I'll try to be more considerate of that. What is this? The Weasel Anti-Defamation League? Hereby ordered to appear in court on... Hey, what the hell is this? Are you suing me?
Cancelled.
I think I just got sued by a Japanese pocket squirrel.
Now, you gotta watch them, bro. Everybody's a bit touchy about their lineage and crap,
Yikes. Better call Maury. I mean, this might get ugly, and I don't want to be canceled. We just got here. Where the hell was I?
Sneaky and underhanded shenanigans, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. So on Capitol Hill, for a couple of days, actually, a Senate committee grilled the top executives of top U.S. banks on the allegation that there was profiteering going on during the COVID-19 pandemic.
While you automatically and at no cost got complete protection from overdraft fees at the Federal Reserve, could you please raise your hand if you gave the same automatic protection to your customers and automatically waived all of their overdraft fees? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone raise a hand, and that's because none of you gave the same help to your customers that the bank regulators extended to you.
Scumbags.
Scambags, at the very least. Senator Elizabeth Warren there elegantly addresses the issue that these commercial banks were given a barge load of assistance, but, of course, they did not pass this forgiveness along to their depositors during one of the most difficult financial times in recent history. Now, they instead pocketed the over $4 billion in overdraft fees that they charged their depositors during this time.
Of course they did. They'd be happy as hell to take that car or house back from you, too, if it's becoming a burden for you.
Yeah. You know, I'm so glad that this was being pointed out right now. Because, friends, after years, and many of you are doing it right now, too, after years and years of dealing with sleazy commercial bank sharks.
Oh, careful, man. There may be a shark lobby out there.
True. Well, after years of dealing with their mysterious fees and deposit timing shenanigans, several years back, I just went to a credit union and never looked back. Best money decision I ever made.
Well, for one thing, they're a non-profit for the most part, right?
They are indeed. Now, look, if you're a hyper-sophisticated financial sort, right, there may be features that credit unions don't offer, so you need to research that. But for me, and many, many others, that choice is pretty clear, especially when you consider the the great big generosity machines that the commercial banks appear to be. And now, let's just clear the air of the shenanigans and scampaigning being done for a moment and get a...
And now, Spotlight on Film.
Oh, I got a fun one here, friends. And it's going to take us way back to the pre-Hays Act days of Hollywood filmmaking. I'm talking about a film here that was directed by Michael Curtiz in 1932 and starred Lionel Atwill, Fay Wray, and Lee Tracy, called Dr. X.
Now look here, Doctor. This is the 6th murder in the same number of months. All committed in the full of the moon with no apparent motive. By means of strangulation and an incision with a strange surgical knife.
Are you implying that someone in my academy could have done this?
I'm convinced of it.
We are all under suspicion of murder.
What? Absurd.
Ridiculous.
What imbecile thought that up?
I'm Lee Taylor of the Daily World.
Then you did it.
Me?
It was you who printed that horrible story of Father in this morning's paper.
Don't be afraid tonight. Be sure you keep your eyes closed and relax.
I'm laying $10 to a dime. It's another moon killer murder.
One of us may be a murderer. A murderer who kills by the light of a full moon, leaving his victim's body mutilated.
Now, the plot of this little gem is that a series of murders have occurred over the course of several months, and the slayings all take place at night and always during a full moon. And witnesses have described a horribly disfigured creature as the killer. And then Dr. Xavier is called in to help in the investigation, played with remarkable focus, as usual, by Lionel Atwill. The police, however, have an ulterior motive for enlisting the good doctor's help, as the scalpel used in the killings seems to originate from Dr. Xavier's medical academy.
Yeah, I'd say the butler did it.
Well, Mr. Keynes, no butlers to be found in this particular academy, but I will tell you that threads of this story can be found clearly in the films of David Cronenberg, because there is this wonderful sequence near the end of the film that involves what the killer calls
synthetic flesh.
Yeah, same territory Mr. Cronenberg explored for his 1977 film, Rabid, which featured, naturally, a medical procedure that went horribly wrong that also involved the use of a synthetic flesh-like material.
Wait, was that the one with Marilyn Chambers?
Yeah, the very same. She goes from porn to body horror and then back again.
Yeah, works for me.
Well, Dr. X is a visual treat for a couple of reasons. First, it was the second feature to be made by Warner Brothers to use this experimental two-strip Technicolor process, one that used essentially red and blue, to create a range of color.
Kind of like those early 3D glasses, yeah?
Very similar, really, except for this process, you don't need to wear any clunky eyewear to get the effect. It's all done in the processing of the film. Now, it's hard to describe, really, the otherworldliness of the atmosphere this process creates. But if you can visualize the high contrast tones of, say, a film noir style film, but replace the black and white with equal tones of red, blue, green, and, well, frankly, any other color that can be derived from the two primary colors, then you start to get the idea here. This really moody atmosphere and the incredible set designs in this thing are a visual treat, especially for the time, because remember, we're still feeling the effects of the Depression era during this time, and studios were having a rough time putting people in the seats.
Kind of like now.
Well, yeah, but I think there might be a bit more inclination to go to a theater now because, well, in many places, you actually can. This film was directed by the renowned Michael Curtiz, he of Casablanca fame. This was not the type of genre that Curtiz was fond of. He was pretty public about that later, but to look at the result, you'd have to say it was an obsession with him. I mean, the attention to detail in the sets and the lighting design, the striking two-strip cinematography by Ray Renahan. I mean, it creates a visual that really has no equivalent. Curtiz went on to direct one other film the following year in this same Technicolor format, The Mystery of the Wax Museum, another one I recommend, starring several folks, actually, from this production, Lionel Atwill and Fay Wray among them. It's also kind of interesting that the makeup designed for both of these films was done by Max Factor, better known probably these days more as a line of cosmetics than the brilliant makeup artist he was. These are some memorable facial distortions, friends, right up there with the creepier Lon Chaney Sr. and Jack Pierce creations. But for Curtiz, this was clearly the end of the line for his exploration of this genre.
So how'd this thing go over during the time? I mean, black and white was the norm, so color must have been a thing, no?
Well, you know what? The public response to this two-strip color technique was, to say the least, tepid. Yeah. And considering the cost of processing for this type of film, it was abandoned shortly after Mystery in the Wax Museum. There were black and white versions of both of these films shot at the exact same time, with only kind of minor variations in scene performances. Now, I got to say, though, that the folks at Technicolor, they weren't thrilled with the black and white options, naturally, but for years, those were the versions you most often saw, not the two-strip versions. And certainly, when it did come to TV sets, the black and white version was the one you got. Often, with lots of scissoring, too, as this was, of course, a pre-code Hollywood film, meaning taboo subjects like rape and cannibalism, which are both dealt with to some degree in this film, were fair game during the pre-Hayes Act days.
Wasn't there some spicy scene in King Kong that got a lot of...
Well, yeah. King Kong had many that were later removed, and after, of course, the Hayes Act was instated there. A giant spider scene involving the dispatching of some explorers, some natives being devoured by a dinosaur. There was even a scene or two or three of Kong munching down on a few of the locals, too. I think the one you're referring to is when Kong appears to be most curious about the blouse Fay Wray is wearing when she's trapped up on a ledge with this giant ape. He begins to poke at her, and of course that causes various articles of clothing to fall off, and Well, Miss Ray was pretty near topless there for a moment.
How'd they get that through?
Well, for a while, on some TV prints, even up to the 60s, it was still in there. That's when I saw it. But it was definitely removed back in 1938 when it was re-released. And now I believe, though, that most of it, if not all of the original, of the materials they can find, have been restored in the latest releases. And speaking of restoration, the UCLA Film Labs have done a beyond excellent job of restoring the 2-strip version here. It looks, and may I also say, sounds fantastic. They took their time with this one, and it shows. Since the surviving 2-strip version in the Warner archives had, as you might imagine, severe wear and audio issues, and they were able to bring it back to its former glory, maybe even better than its former glory, using highly sophisticated restoration software. On occasion, they actually had to rebuild entire scenes from fragments of multiple prints to achieve it, since oftentimes frames will be missing or severely damaged, and content would, of course, be lost. And lastly, this is a Warner Archive Blu-ray release, meaning it's one of these made-on-demand discs, which is really curious to me. I mean, this can't be cheap to do the restoration on something like this. You'd think they'd give it a full retail release.
Well, maybe that's why they went with the on-demand. Save some additional bucks. Probably not going to have the sales volume of a Texas Toolbox Massacre Part 11-teen would have had.
Well, you might be correct there, Mr. Keynes. So, if you're a fan of classic, creepy stuff with a little pre-code lurid on the side, I highly recommend the visual splendor that is Dr. X on the Warner Archive imprint. And with that, we'll take our tattered Scampaigns and our bubbling synthetic flesh parts and squeeze back between the test tubes and oversized retorts, but not before thanking our contributors to this edition of the show, Carol Adams, Jeff Pollard, and a gracious tip of the hat to the good folks at the CBC for audio clip use-mentation. Thanks as well to the always ready for a good color restoration, the Archbishop of the Bottom End, Milt Keynes, for technical assistance, and so forth and so on.
A synthetic pleasure.
Synthetic flesh.
Should have been our secret words. And, of course, thanks to you, friends, for pushing play on this edition of Fusebox. We do so appreciate that. We know. There are all manner of tendrils reaching out to grab your ear balls. So we do humbly appreciate you spending that time here with us. And, hey, editor guy, tell them where they can help us out, too.
Hey, it's as simple as pie. You go to thefuseboxshow.com and click on the shopping tab. And like flippin' magic, there you are. Oh, and if you're one of those book a face folks, click on the Shop Now button on the Fusebox Show Facebook page. Okay? Also, quick as a bunny. There you go. Enough said.
Yes, you can. And just to add yet one more thing to the one more thing list, we talked on our last show about the documentary that I had the great pleasure to work on featuring Alfre Woodard on the life of artist Alma Thomas. Well, I have a link now from the filmmakers to that website, which is missalmathomas.com. And a link will be right down there in the show notes as well for you to check out. Yeah, I think you will enjoy that. I have been your randomly generated hyperlinked host, Mark Rose, saying until our next cartoon.
Fuse.